We're good.
Okay, going to call the pension board meeting to order on October 21st, 2019 at 19:07 hours. First order of business is prayer. Dear Lord, look over our service people abroad and here in the United States. Look over our retired members and also our members of the town that are serving that have not retired at this time. Give us your guidance as a board here to make decisions. Amen. Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Al, close executive
Second.
session.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Close the executive session.
I'll make a motion to close executive session and seal the minutes from October 21st, 2019 in accordance with Rhode Island General Law 42-46-4, 42-46-5A1, and 42-46-5A2. Just a motion to close and seal the minutes from executive session of today.
Motion made.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to close the executive session. Minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Might not
carries.
be loud. I mean, they're on. Just not loud.
Roll call, Tracy.
Yep. Albert Heru,
Here.
David Lemoy,
Here.
Helene Kay,
Here.
Ralph Salmonese.
Here.
Michelle Lombardi.
Here.
Okay, item E, approval of the private minutes meeting from August 19th and September 9th.
Make a motion to approve minutes from August 19th, 2019 and September 9th, 2019.
A second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes from August 19th and September 9th, 2019. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item F, we're going to combine with
H.
H. So we're going to put both together and have Clearbrook come up and do their presentation, please.
Good evening, everyone. Hi.
Good evening.
Aye.
So the portfolio has done pretty well on a year-to-date basis, up 12.2%. Can everybody hear me? No? Okay. Better?
You gotta be close. They're
Okay.
not really picking up too well.
So the portfolio on a year-to-date basis is up 12.2%. Most of that has been driven by equities, U.S. equities. We are still in line in our asset allocation that we put in our investment policy statement. We're at 54% equities, 22% fixed income, and then 18% alternative investments. So we're right in line. There's haven't really been any changes in that regard. What we have changed, though, since the time we last met, we've allocated more towards U.S. equities, away from international, away from emerging markets, and we've extended the duration in the fixed income portion of the portfolio. When we were here last, we had shorter term fixed income securities in the portfolio because we anticipated that the Fed would be rising, they would be increasing rates. And since then, we know that rates have come down pretty significantly. We're expecting rates to continue to decrease. So what we did in the spring was we added some duration. Basically, instead of having a bond that matures in 1 year, we bought bonds or bought mutual funds that buy bonds with longer maturities. And basically what the difference is you'll get a little bit more yield from those securities, and we've seen that in the portfolio. The the fixed income portion, if you want to just flip to page 3. On a year-to-date basis, since they're up 6.4%. Now, we still have some shorter-term securities in there, but that transition is going to occur over time. But back to the U.S. equities. We don't see, we do see increased volatility going forward. Every day there's a different tweet. We see issues with trades, with China. That hasn't been resolved yet. Brexit hopefully is going to be finalized within the coming weeks, or at least there'll be a deal that's voted on. But the U.S., despite the volatility that's occurring in international markets, U.S. equities, U.S. markets remain strong. We don't really see too much of weakness there. There's a lot of talk about a recession on the headlines, but we don't really see it occurring. We see a slowing, but we don't really see any significant market event that is similar to 08. With that said, because of the slowing, what we've done is we've increased the quality of the portfolio. Since 1999, there has never been a bigger difference between growth and value stocks than there are now. Value stocks are basically lower PE stocks. We don't have the FANGs. Last meeting, we talked about the FANG stocks in the portfolio. We've decreased those positions: Facebook, Amazon, Google, and Netflix. So there is a more conservative nature to the U.S. equity portion of the portfolio. Even our international, you'll see on page 3, the top of the page, you see the Morgan Stanley Global Franchise Fund. That's another way that we're approaching investing, excuse me, in emerging markets. Basically, it's larger multinational corporations that are capitalizing on emerging market economies. Unilever, selling soap to Vietnam, things like that. The rise of the middle class, we've heard a lot about in the news. That's another way to approach it. It's more quality, just in case there is volatility going forward. Within the alternatives piece, that piece on a year-to-date basis up 6.7%. Remember, we've talked in past meetings, that's more of like a bond alternative. We're not really attempting for high returns in that portion of the portfolio. More a way to manage risk and help minimize the volatility that may occur in the other portions of the portfolio. GRAM is a macro fund, plays on the volatility within the global markets. That's done pretty well, up 6.9% on a year-to-date basis. Davidson Kempner plays more in distressed markets. It's a multi-faceted fund. They also have a long-short portion of their portfolio. They play in different things. That portion of the portfolio is up 4.9. It's only a 3.3% weight. Renaissance is a long-short equity portfolio. They've done really well, up 10.9% on a year-to-date basis. And then the K2 is up 6.3%. Infinity Q is a new fund that we added in January. And that's really meant to hedge the rest of the portfolio. So if there is a significant downside event, that portion of the fund it's almost like an insurance policy. Cash here is 4.7% of the portfolio. There was a comment earlier before the meeting started about fund flows. That portion of the portfolio is a little bit high, but we get funds inflows and outflows from time to time, and just at the end of September it was a little bit elevated. Any questions?
John, some of the work that you did with the domestic equity as far as, and actually the international you talked about too, it sounds like you're kind of going into more index funds. Can we expect to see lower fees with those types of funds rather than sticking with individual, like you talked about, the FANG type of funds? Is that the idea?
Well, they're
lower risk.
A little bit of both. So, okay, so we were here last fall, I guess. So after that meeting, we invested in the Schwab Fundamental Index. What that is it's not a straight market cap fund like the S&P 500. Right. Basically, it's pays more attention to valuation. but it is in fact a lower fee.
Okay.
Than some of the other active. We still have Dodge and Cox in the portfolio. Wasatch has been a really big driver of return in the portfolio. That 2.7%, that was upwards of 4% earlier in the year, and we've continued to trim it because it's performed so well. No anticipation of removing that from the portfolio. We have, though, increased the cap size of the portfolio, we'll say that. So that's another reason why Wasatch is a little bit smaller. The newest position is the Vanguard Value ETF. We are looking for some value options, and that's sort of a placeholder for the time being, but we added that, I would say September 5th, maybe, September 4th.
You mentioned that when the interest rates came down, you made a switch from one category into another, into a mutual fund, which paid you a little more money. What was the difference?
So we have always been in mutual funds in the fixed income, and we took money from the Diamond Hill Short Duration Fund. We sold that, and then what we did was we bought the Baird Intermediate and the Diamond Hill Core. That weight was probably outside of withdrawals, probably about 7% of the portfolio. It's increased a little bit since we bought it. So that the duration of the portfolio moving from short duration bonds to longer duration bonds was, this may not sound like a lot, but it's about 3 or 4 years, which is kind of a big jump.
The principal of when the interest rates come down, the principal
Will go up. Yep.
of those bonds went up.
And it'll pay a little bit more yield on the portfolio. Just like if you buy a CD, a longer CD pays you more money than a 5-year CD pays you more money than a 3-month CD. It's the same concept. So when if they lower rates, like they're expecting to, at the end of the month, then likely we'll see an increase in the value of those funds too, in addition to the coupon that you get, the yield.
So, you mentioned that you're looking at a more conservative approach this year. So, can you predict then over the next 12 months what you think the portfolio will earn percentage-wise?
I wouldn't want to predict a return. That's a good question, if I knew.
If you have a Powerball number,
Yeah,
just let me
right,
know.
right. I think that we can just make our best guess, right? I mean, based on the information that we have, and we see the U.S. economy continues to remain strong, but growth stocks, the Googles and Facebooks, their valuations are still are very high, whereas some of the cheaper names in the index are still pretty cheap. They're pretty reasonable. So we'd like to be there because that's going to protect you on the downside if there is a crazy tweet or the China trade deal doesn't come through. We want to be protected there. I mean, we're coming into an election year too, so we feel that it's going to be there could be some volatility, but the U.S. consumer continues to remain strong. The U.S. economy is strong. Mortgage rates continue to go down. We see borrowing up for homes.
We're not anticipating, we're certainly not anticipating 11 to 12% though, right? Growth.
Probably not. I would say that's been pretty nice. I mean, over the last 3 years, we're up 7%. A lot of that, the 3-year return was 7% of the total plan.
Correct.
And that's the return we're shooting for. Mm-hmm. We're hoping to balance it out, maintain the risk over the longer term to meet your obligations.
Yeah. Okay.
On page 7, in this one that you gave us,
Yeah.
right, it talks about credit sites not signaling an impending recession, despite the expected slowdown. How is that?
The consensus? I'm sorry, I didn't bring that.
It said despite the expected slowdown, the GDP tracking indicators such as this one from credit sites is not signaling an impending recession. How is that? I mean, I've read different stuff and things, and it says that we're not really out of it, and we might be dropping back down. But this says it's not signaling that.
We see a slowing economy, but we don't see us going into negative growth for an extended period of time.
Okay. So that
So
goes-
basically, that's what that chart on page 7
All right,
is
so that
talking
goes
about.
along on page 8 then, that's basically we're not gonna get back to a 2% inflation rate, probably.
That's a great observation. I think that what the Fed right now is struggling with is how much can we lower our rates to inflate the economy? And we have a pretty good example in Europe. They have negative rates, where basically if I put the money in the bank, I have to pay them. The bank doesn't pay me. And what they're trying to do is spur growth, spur investment, and that hasn't happened. And that's the fear here that the Fed is concerned with. How low can we lower rates without them going negative? There's some debate on whether they think that it'll go negative in the U.S. or not. We've seen some discussion from the administration that they'd like rates to go negative. I don't know what that will necessarily accomplish. I don't think that'll happen. Because then sort of you have to be concerned about how much firepower does the Fed have left if they have to lower rates to the point where they're negative. The growth has to come from somewhere else. We've seen huge gains in productivity through technology. We have really low rates, that's helpful. But I think at this point, we're gonna need some help from fiscal spending. We've heard a lot about infrastructure. That's gonna help significantly.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
I guess just getting back to, you're expecting increased volatility, and you have a lot of alternative funds that that's where they thrive. Are we gonna maybe increase those, or are you looking at maybe going that way? I mean, I'm not big into alternatives, but you are right. I mean, election year and with the president and what's gonna be opposing him, it's gonna be a lot of volatility either way, I think. I don't think we're gonna get away from that.
So we're at an 18.6 weight to our alternatives. The max we're allowed to invest in alternatives is 20%, and then we have to trim. So we don't really expect that to change too much.
But even within those alternatives that you have, is there some that we can get out of and get more into those funds that thrive on volatility, or do they all kind of do it just in different ways?
So Davidson Kempner is probably their strategies are not it's a much longer term portfolio. The other holdings that you have though thrive on that volatility. So Graham especially, Renaissance is always looking at changes in U.S. equities and international equities, and it's a long short portfolio. So when it's volatile, that portfolio is going to do really well. The Infinity Q is really, it's like an insurance policy. It's a mutual fund, but if there's a strong downturn in U.S. markets or there's some event, that is going to help the portfolio
That's why that.
manage
because
risk.
I was just gonna ask you while I was working it down, why that was so low. All right.
So when we bought that in January, we had expected that there would be some potential negative volatility going forward, and candidly, I mean, we were not right.
So what's the
U.S.
benefit
market,
of
it's
doing that then? You're saying it's like an insurance policy, but what's that
well,
benefit?
for the earlier months, we had expected that there would be some volatility. Growth stocks continue to do well in
Yeah.
U.S. equities. That hasn't played out yet, but we're still because we expect some volatility going forward. We'd like to keep that in the portfolio to balance out the risk. It's more of a risk reducer.
And you're looking at a calendar year, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, because we're almost at the end of the calendar.
Yeah.
Okay, just. Anyone else have any other questions?
No, keep up the good work. 12.2%. That's very good.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Those are the results, nice.
I gotta go turn that fan off.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Oh, Jesus, really? I was wondering what the... Everything's all right? Disarm it. Yeah, oh, yeah. It's nerve-wracking.
Still on the same item on the Rockland Trust Report for August 1st to August 31st, 2019. Beginning market value of $35,749,871.56. Change in the market, negative $318,500.53 for an ending value of $35,086,456.07. From the first of the year to the end of August of this year, started off at 29,675, 200.76, ending 35,086,456.07 for a gain of $288,252.13. Okay, item G, payment of bills. First one is Olin and Penza. File number MBF 7372 for July of 2019, $6,515.75. And MBF 7372, August of 2019, $6,253.00.
I make a motion that we approve the amount for July of $6,515.75 and for August, $6,253.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approval of G1 for those two amounts. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Well, Paul has a question.
Do you have a question?
I did. You
Oh.
already made the motion and approved the bill, so.
Sorry.
It's gonna be the same questions I'm not gonna ask the lawyer, but I'm gonna ask the board. I mean, I haven't been here for over the summer, and I apologize for that, but my life's a little hectic over the summer, as most of us are. But we were talking about $1,800 bills the last time I was here, and now we're up to 2 months of $12,768. What is done for this money? What was done? What is it? You don't have to get specific, but what was done for the money? We have a lot of members here. We're all members of the pension fund, as are a couple of you. Just wondering, why are those fees so high?
I know right off the top, APRA requests, we had a few of those actually over the summer that had to be responded to. And those have to be done timely, and our attorney is the APRA advisor. That took up a little bit more. Was there litigation specific?
There were some litigation questions, there were APRA requests. I'm trying to just think in generalities, so just give me a second. Board meeting, attendance, obviously. And research questions. I think
Okay, so there
most
was,
general I can be.
there was no specific litigation, it was just litigation questions and
Yeah.
questions about other
I
issues.
mean, we get an itemized list, so we go through it. Some of it has the names of what's going on, and I know, recalling back to July and August, that there was litigation questions, but, I mean, all of that is part of cases that are going to require research, you know what I mean?
And we had talked about RFPs for legal services before. Whatever happened with that? Did we ever get any?
For legal services?
we-
Legal services, yes, that was done. We had two proposals, and we accepted one.
Who was Olin and Penza still?
Right, still,
Okay.
yes.
And was that because the other one was more expensive, or?
We did a system of all of us voting on, looking at answer set, a series of questions and what the answers were. And expense was one of them, but it wasn't just on the dollar value. It was on services and so forth.
Okay, and as I always say, I appreciate the job you all do. It's a thankless one, okay? However, we really got to control some of this cost. I mean, that's a lot of money coming out of our pension fund. And like I said, I was kind of upset about $1,800. Now we're talking about $6,500 and $6,200. I mean, it's not going to take long to get to the $100,000 figure, okay? And so that's all I'd like to say. I appreciate your candor with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
G2, Holly Leonard, doctor for Debbie Levine's case, the amount of $1,000.
Motion to approve G2.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve G2. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item G3, Keith Raphael, Healing Choices, again for the same individual. The amount is, as I flip the page,
400.
$400.
Motion to approve G3.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve G3. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item G4, Nyhart Company.
Mr. Chairman, just before we go further on this item, I was speaking with the clerk. There is a benefit estimate that she believes was not requested by her. I would recommend that we table under item 4A3 in the amount of $1,400 for the invoice number 0154013.
Okay.
If you give me a minute to do the math, I'll just
Total.
Yeah, we can back that out.
get you a revised
$7,900.
total.
Well, why don't we just table it then for now?
Well,
But I got the total at the end.
we don't have to table all items under?
No, no, I'm just saying three.
Just three.
Right, okay.
Right.
Yeah, because they're all itemized, okay.
Do you want-
Yeah, they're all separate, so if we just, when we get to that, we'll table
We
it.
just table, gotcha.
Okay, under,
Go vote for the total.
under 4A, we have an actuary and administrative service for the month of July 2019. That was Madeira's return of contributions, Charlton pension calculations, death benefit for Govan. That amount for those services was $775.
Motion to approve 4A-1.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 4A-1. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 4A2, Gatsby Report 67 and 68. The interim bill for September of 2019 is $900.
Motion to approve item 4A-2.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 4A-2. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4A3, it's recommended that we table this because it wasn't requested by us.
Just a portion of that.
Just one.
Which one?
Benefit estimate that was done.
But they've got it together on one bill, so
Right.
I'm gonna.
We
we're
don't
gonna
know
have to
what the
table
actual
whole
amount was
thing, and
separate?
I
Right.
didn't request that one.
let's just table the whole thing because we don't know if it's equal, split in half, or if it's a percentage.
Could be hours.
So let's just table it and.
Yep.
we
Motion to
get an
table item 4A-3.
Second
Second.
motion.
Motion made in second to table 4A-3, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4A-4, July 1st, 2019 IRS funding valuation. That amount is $3,660.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve 4A-4.
Second?
Motion made and seconded to approve 4A-4. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm sorry. My vote was aye. I was reading something.
Okay. Motion carries. Item 4A-5, return of contributions to Pola and Bisquat, pension calculations for Clark and LeVake. That total comes to $1,190.
Motion to approve 4A-5.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 4A-5. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Just make a note on your sheets there that $7,825 is less the $1,400.
Albert, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I was just looking at Levine here. I'm
Can you
assuming-
just come up to the mic, please? Just for the
Sure.
tape. Thank you.
Sorry. So I was looking at Levine, and for the IME, and so it looks like there's two IMEs here. So I'm assuming they both did a, whatever we call it, a medical exam for the same injury. How come one doctor is charging $1,000 and the other one is charging $400? Am I reading that right?
Yeah.
So how do we,
We're like,
for the same exact, I mean,
The one for 400, I use someone in Mass, I went to the state pension board.
Mm-hmm.
Can you find anyone local, and that was just their price, I don't know.
yeah, I mean, is there a way we can, I mean, that's quite a difference.
They usually more 1,000 or more, that was just really.
Every doctor's gonna have a different fee they're gonna charge to provide a service, all right?
If I'm not mistaken, the clerk reported that it was difficult finding even a second doctor for that
We spent
particular.
months trying to meet the
specialty.
requirements of the pension plan to get her pension approved. Her situation is unique, and that's what created the problem. So we ended up having exhausted everything, and Tracy and I spent different nights for more than a month, more than 2 months, till we finally could get someone to do it. We had to go out of state.
So
Their
the-
rates are what they are.
The one that was out of state is $1,000 or the 400?
400.
So we had a hard time finding somebody, and they were way cheaper. But yet, the one that was easy, sounds like maybe the reason the one's easy is because they're $1,000.
Usually they're 1,000 to 3,000.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, obviously, it can be done for a lot cheaper, so,
I don't know if it was the rarity of the,
That's the
yeah.
thing.
I'm just saying, have we ever looked into what we're paying these doctors? Because that's quite a bit
But,
difference.
See, but what you're saying, and I understand, but we had to make an exception of what we usually go with what the trust has for a list of doctors. We couldn't get anyone to do what we had to have done.
I understand what you're
We
saying.
were forced to go to the state, who they used. And the ironic part of it is, they gave us a doctor in Mass, after we explained everything, agreed to look at the individual. If somebody from the state was to go to that same individual, have an examination done, the state would not accept it. But yet they approved him to be used.
For you.
Don't try to figure, you
Yeah.
just pull the rest of your hair.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying that maybe we could look into,
Yeah, we have to go
you know,
with
we
what
kind of
the
have to look at, every dime counts here, you know, and I don't know, it probably rots because it's more work for somebody, but if we're just paying out, and obviously there's cheaper out there, I'm just saying, something to look into, that's all.
Yeah.
And not many doctors want to do this type
Yeah.
of work anyway, so it's not very easy to
Yeah.
compile a list.
Well, obviously, there was one that would do it for a lot cheaper.
Well,
so.
there's one,
I was so
there's one show in
surprised when
town
I
that'll do it
actually
for
got that.
1,000, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
yeah.
if they
No,
use-
no, I'm just making a point, that's all.
Okay, item I, applications to be approved. First one, Michael Clark from the police His amount is $1,836.41, and that is gonna start December 4th, 2026.
Motion to approve item I1, Michael Clark, and thank him for his service.
Second that motion.
Motion made and seconded to approve item H1 for Michael Clark and to thank him for his service. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Second one, I2, Philip Kelly for the schools. His amount is $2,249.91.
Motion to approve item I2, Philip Kelly, and thank him for his service.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve item I2. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Just a note, his effective date is 6/15/2019. I3, Jesse, I'm sure know how to pronounce it, I don't want to ruin it.
Temisto.
How is that?
Temisto.
Termasco, okay, from the police. His amount is $3,203.49. His effective date is 8/24/19.
Did you have the amount?
Yes,
He hasn't signed,
$3,203.
he hasn't signed off yet, so I will motion to approve item I3, Jesse Temisto, pending his approval.
You did notify him though, right, Tracy?
He is aware.
That's what I went up to.
So-
And also thank him for his service as well.
Pending his approval, correct?
Yes, sir.
Motion made.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve item I3, pending, Mr.
To miss out.
Tomesco's approval of his figures. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. President, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir, step up to the mic.
I don't know if this would be the appropriate time or at the end, but, my name's Jason Licciardi. I'm West Warwick Town Councilman for Ward 4. And, we don't get into personnel issues with employees, but, over the last few months, I've been getting questions regarding the pensions and how they work. So, and I've asked around, I've gotten different answers. So I felt no better to be at the pension board to ask to get the true answer. Is there a procedure if a town employee retires? You work for the town and you want to retire October 31st. What do you do? What's the first step?
I think Tracy could speak to it. I'll let her, if you don't, you're involved in the
Yeah,
process
sure.
really as far as how that.
Yep, when they're ready to retire, of course, they go to the Department of HR, then they can come and fill out an app with the pension board when they're ready for it to be on the list as receiving. We put it on, to receive the application. It starts it going right after it's received. You have to wait till after their last paycheck is processed.
All right, you're losing me a little bit.
Okay.
All right, you have a person who says, I want to retire October 31st. Where do they go and what do they do? Do they go to the Human Resources? They go to you? They go to the pension board?
Let's start off with HR.
They have
Okay,
to-
and then what happens in HR? I'm asking because I don't know, and I'm getting questioned on it. Because what I'm told, are waiting 3 and 4 months for their pension. And I'm hearing that from different people. I haven't asked the pension board how that works, so I can't give an answer, and I can't make any type of decision to weigh on. So we start off with HR, and HR does what?
HR is gonna give you a card, correct? They're gonna fill out some information.
We came up with the sheet, and they give me a sheet, but I don't always get them
A sheet about what?
about the person that's retiring.
Okay, and that has what on that sheet?
Years
Uh,
of service, any pertinent information
Date
that
of
would
hire.
affect.
They should be
Okay.
giving
Data
leaves of
termination.
absence and stuff, but
Okay.
they.
Well, what happens at that point? So that's step 1. What happens at that point? Step 2 is to you from HR. What happens at that point?
Usually I actually get the application before I get that from HR. The process is a little faulted right now.
It can be
So
switched either way,
it could
but
be, yeah.
So they can go directly to you.
As soon as they're ready to retire and have the date, again, they fill out the application. Once I receive the application, I immediately put it on the next agenda for application being received.
For this
For the
board?
to
Right.
approve.
Okay,
After they approve it, I have to wait. I usually send an email to one of the finance departments. I do wait a while for some of the information.
wait a while from who?
The finance departments.
Okay,
From there, after they receive their last paycheck, police and fire, the wages can be, presented back to me, and then I send them to the actuary. For
Okay.
them to start calculating the pension.
how long does that take?
The actuary is usually back within a couple weeks, but if there's a question asked from the actuary and the board needs to answer, that can hold up the process to another month. Because then you're gonna bring it back to the board, it has to go back on the agenda for them to discuss, whether it's COLA, whether it's something to do with years of service, whatever question it may be. If it's municipal, it's a 10-year back, and you also have to research the leaves of absences. It takes a little longer. The buyouts, because it's gross pension, you have to actually wait till after they get their buyout, because they take pension out of their buyout. So that could bring 3 weeks of me not even ordering figures from the finance department. It could be 3 weeks from the date that they retire before they can even give me the actual figures from the Department of Finance. So then I
Okay.
can get it to the actuary. So it can take up to 3 months. One little problem can make it longer.
Some
So-
of it is timing as well.
It
and
is. It
I've
can be
had
timing with this.
guys in my department that retire and they're asking me
Yeah.
the same question, how early can I get it in? And, I mean, yes, if you're in a situation where I know I'm leaving October 31st, you can at least get your application in, but she can't do anything with that application until you actually leave.
Right.
Payroll's done.
So
gets the
nothing
numbers from
starts
finance.
until you actually
I can send it
leave
6
the
months
town?
earlier, it doesn't change her time
Okay.
frame at all. Which
Okay.
her time frame starts our time frame. We
Right,
don't see
okay.
anything until they show up on our agendas.
And then
Okay.
that holds up the finance
But if-
departments.
Okay.
and the whole
If
thing.
you are saying, all right, I'm gonna retire, October 3rd, whatever it is.
Yep.
And I wanna get my application in, you sent it to Tracy yesterday, she can't get it on tonight's agendas to receive it.
Right.
So some of that is timing as well.
Okay.
and then
Right.
if you've got vacations and stuff, depending on the time of the year, that just backs it up a little bit more.
Okay. Is there, it just seems, looking from the outside in, that when you're talking, all right, I'm set to retire, and then, all right, I'm still living, the bills are still coming in, and then, I'm not working right now,
Right.
but when am I gonna get my check? When am I gonna get my check? And then it's 3 and 4 months down the road. Looking from the outside in, it just seems, and I'm not on the pension
It's
board.
unfair.
It is unfair.
Right.
And it really seems like the process can possibly be a shorter time period.
So to give
Some-
you, actually, I don't wanna step on you, but
Right.
just, we were talking about it with an individual on the way in, and they were talking to somebody who works, or is a member of the board at the state MERS system. Their turnaround's typically 15 days. So you retire, within 15 days, you're getting a check. But that's
Right.
the difference that you have when you have a staff that can, they get the application, they can do the numbers, they don't have to send it to an actuary, they can do all of that in-house.
Right.
Which obviously costs are cheaper and turnaround time's much faster. You have people working Monday through Friday, 40 hours a week.
No, I get it, I get it.
So we're
but-
a uncompensated board that is trying to show up once a month with only 5 members when we should have 7. So when meetings don't happen, that pushes it out further.
I hear.
We
I
need to
know,
meet
I'm-
just to receive applications and just to process the paperwork. Where if you had employees, they could just, oh, yep, here's your application, and we'll start the process tomorrow.
And I was gonna say, some of the reason you're getting some of the stuff that you're getting questions, whether it's you or the other council members, or even us individually getting calls on that, it's just because we don't have sometimes enough members to make a quorum.
Right, yeah, I've
So
heard that.
That makes huge.
Mhm.
The question's been brought up, the facts have been put out, it's just, there's no intention of anything being done, it's just the way it happens to fall sometimes.
Okay.
We've had a couple, unique situations where we couldn't have a quorum, it was just some last minute emergency things, and it is what it is, It just, doesn't look good, it's not fair for the individual, some individuals, I'm not gonna use any names or anything, but 2-3 months, just like you said, without
Yeah.
a paycheck, right? Now, I can tell them, and like I'll tell you, yeah, they're gonna get it retroactive, but that doesn't.
It doesn't help.
Doesn't pay the bills
Yeah,
right
it doesn't
now.
help.
So I have a suggestion, Mr. Licciardi. The town council can write an ordinance to allow the pension board to give somebody, to make an estimate and give somebody a check for 75% of that estimate within a month of retirement. And continue that until we get the final figures, and then everything will be adjusted. It might be 3 months later, but everything will be adjusted at that point, and they'll get whatever they should have gotten.
Could you put that in some type of email to me or a letter or something?
Absolutely.
And I'd be glad to bring that up, because I just feel that, and I'm sure you feel the same way.
yeah.
Somebody retires from the town for working all their life, and they're all set to retire, and you get into that mode, and then you're scared to retire because you don't know when you're gonna get your check. You're gonna be able to start that retirement. And I don't think it's not right for them. And I understand your position as well. Thank you for giving me the process. So it just seems like it's a long time.
David talked about little sketches or itches or bumps that get into it. If you don't mind, I'll use Ms. Levine as an example. The problems we ran into trying just to do the basic things we have to do for that application dragged on for months and months and months. Her frustration and her patience was completely worn out, and the council, manager, and us heard about it. I answered her back personally. I have reviewed her file many, many times, trying to find a doctor to get her process going. Tracy and I spent hours and hours, Wednesday nights, Thursday nights, here, 3-4 hours, looking up this, doing that, making phone calls, trying to find, to get her what she needs. Because if we do something without following the proper procedure, that's another.
No,
problem.
I understand
So,
about that.
In that case, this individual had no money for the longest period of time and had a lot of problems, but we worked on it, and I put it in a letter and explained it to her, just so that she understands. It seems like there's nobody trying to help the retiree, whether it's a normal retirement or disability. And her question was basically like yours. Why is this? Why is that? What's the system? What's the holdup? Okay? There's no really easy answer. Say, well, we can do A, B, C, D,
Yep.
E, and we're gonna have you an answer in 45 days with a check. It doesn't work that easy.
Right.
That suggestion she had might work, but it may also create some problems, so.
I'm sure it may,
Think about it
but
before
at
you
least there would be
actually do it.
something maybe to spark some other discussion, from other people,
Yeah.
Just off the top of my
Let's
head
move
as
on.
well,
We have another question.
to avoid an estimate, you could just do a specific dollar amount, where that way it doesn't matter, the person's retired, they'll get $1,000 or whatever,
Yes.
$2,000 a month until, and if there needs to be an adjustment, whether it's too much money was given out, that way you don't even have to worry about doing an estimate at 75%, it's just.
Yep.
As long as the individual, I don't think there's gonna be an issue, as long as the individual understands that whatever this amount, it could change plus or minus.
Yep, no, I
But
understand.
it gets
But
worked
it's
out
something to
after.
get us through.
I just think there should be some discussion about, because there's gonna be more people retiring, obviously. And with this process, I just feel that, like you're saying, it's 3 months. It could be 3 months. If you get into a glitch, somebody gets sick,
You know, I
the
told
holidays
them-
come up, life takes over, you can't have a quorum, a meeting only once a month, I get it. So that, it could be a canceled November meeting, then a December meeting with a holiday, and then you're meeting again in January, and still that, so-and-so doesn't get paid. Again, not your fault, but bottom line is, that person's still not getting paid,
You
so,
brought up a question that was brought back to me shortly after I got on this side of the board here. What happens now, because I'm in a different tax year? Like you say, go into January, that brings another.
well, things come up.
Yeah.
But, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Phil Kelly. I just have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I can't accept the answer you just gave for not having meetings every month.
Okay.
You're appointed to these positions, you should be taking them serious, and it doesn't seem that you are. 3 meetings have been canceled this year.
When you say you, are you?
The committee, I mean the committee as
Okay.
a whole,
Yeah. Right.
And I was affected by some of them cancellations. Second of all, how will the payouts be coming? Now, I mean, I'm roughly a little over 4 months back in payments. How do the payments come to me? One lump sum, small sums?
If I can understand, and if I'm wrong, Tracy, correct me, your first payment should be retroactive from day one to that date of the check. And then after that, it will be monthly.
Pretty much.
Just like I just spoke to the councilman, like I said,
So
I
ri-
can tell you, like last month, as soon as we get this straightened out, you are gonna get your money retroactive from day one. But up in this point, if you have no other job after you're retired, you've got no income coming in.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And you know, like I told the newscaster, I've had to dip into funds that I hadn't expected to.
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's a couple other people that are being affected. One guy's being evicted from his apartment because he can't pay his rent, and you know who he is.
I do.
You know, and it just isn't fair. It's you're playing God with our money
You're
at
gonna-
times.
Well, yeah, it seems that way, but,
And no, it is that
We're
way.
not.
It doesn't seem that way. It is that way.
well, I understand. But it's nothing
Yeah.
that we're doing, or we're trying to,
I'm not saying it's intentional. It's just you've committed to this position. You should be here every month as a group. You know, whether it's 3, 5, 7, it doesn't make a difference. You should be here. And as far as the process, in my case, I believe the process was held back on the school department side. I don't believe they got the numbers, Tracy, as fast as they should have.
sometimes that
And,
happens.
and that, I mean, that's not, obvious, that's not your problem.
Right.
That's the school department's problem. That's just a lack of communication. And I mean, I will be addressing that with the school department.
Okay,
But it's, so I can see, in next month, I'll see one lump sum check.
No, I'm gonna send it to the bank today.
Oh, okay, I'm
You'll
sorry.
probably see it by the end of the week, or probably by the end of the week. You'll get your lump sum, you'll get your partial
For June.
July, August, September, October, and probably she'll set you up for November,
Okay.
coming monthly. Because I'll make the mid-month cutoff. I usually stay tonight and fax everything over to the bank.
Okay, all right.
I just, I understand your frustration, I just want you to understand that the majority of the board here, we do the best we can as far as in making meetings. I've said it one-on-one tonight and other things we've talked about, but Tracy and I, like, we'll be here tonight long after you go home, finishing up stuff. We usually meet every Wednesday night, around 4 or 5 o'clock that afternoon, anywhere to 8, 9 o'clock, sometimes a little later, trying to do things that we can do where we don't need a board to vote on, loose ends, researching something out. For instance, we spent I don't know how many hours going through her reports, trying to find a doctors and finding a way, this doctor, that doctor. So I just don't want you to make the impression that we're not doing anything. We are trying. It's just that sometimes we run into obstacles.
That's not what I meant. I mean, all I said was, I don't believe you're taking this position serious on the monthly meetings to make these decisions, as far as the people getting their pensions.
Okay.
And, you know, I'll give you a heads up, I've talked to 6 people in the last 2 weeks that are gonna be retiring in the next month, couple months, and they're afraid to put their applications in. 'Cause when I retired, I couldn't even get a number as to what I was gonna be getting every month, and that's not fair either. Unless I had to pay for it, right? That's how it works.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have to pay for this.
But
Years
even-
ago, we used to get yearly statements.
Yeah.
We don't see them anymore.
Yeah, because things have changed, I understand.
And, you know, I was put in a position to walk out the door, not knowing what I was gonna get every month. I had a good idea what it was
Idea,
gonna
right.
be, but it wasn't the exact figure. You know, and that just isn't fair to the people that are retiring. We should know what we're gonna get when we leave. You know, and I know that isn't gonna change. Not with
Not
NIHOT,
overnight.
it isn't gonna change with NIHOT.
Did you get the one from Nyhart a couple of years ago?
That's the ones I've been giving out, the 2017.
No, I haven't seen, I was president of the union for the school department, and going back years and years, we used to get them, we used to get them
Well,
yearly.
we sent, Nyhart had one last year or the year
I
before.
don't,
Yeah, that's when I brought them
Yeah, they
all
were
over.
as of
Yeah.
December.
yeah, an estimate, yeah, okay, yeah,
And-
an estimated, yeah.
I got mine too, and I didn't find it very useful. I don't
No,
know if you-
it wasn't useful at all.
So we tried it, it was a terrible, like, we paid a lot of money for that, and it was horrible. I mean, we're looking into a new RFP for a new actuary, and that's definitely gonna get brought up again, and that's
Right.
why we did it the first
What
time
you're
a couple of
talking
years
about
ago.
years ago, there was no fee in there, it was a different company, it was different.
Well, I know, yeah, no, I know that, yeah, but it just, again, it just isn't fair to the people that are retiring, not knowing
I've never
how much
Yeah.
they're gonna be getting every month, so.
And then
Thank-
waiting 3 or 4 months to get them.
Well, that's another story. Thank you.
Thanks.
Can I make a comment, please? I'm so sorry, I'll be quick. My name is Linda Petrarca. I understand the frustration for people who are waiting 3 and 4 months. 3 and 4 months is the norm from what I've seen between getting figures and so forth. So I'm thinking, how are wages reported? I know because I retired from the school department in last March. I know when we report wages, when people retire from the state system, we're reporting wages every time an employee is paid. They know, the retirement board knows what you've earned. They know your gross wages. How often are wages reported on the municipal level?
I believe that
When they retire?
that's how I order them, but the way that they report it is when they do those, the reports for the actuary, but those go fiscal year, so it would never, they're not monthly or.
I mean,
year-
what would
you know
it
what I
take-
mean, to figure it out.
What would it take to put employees on the municipal side on a, these are your wages, these are your confirmed wages? Now you're not waiting a month or 6 weeks or 8 weeks to get what are your actual wages.
The problem is gross, no one can predict your gross for your wages. You
Well,
can
if
have
you've
up
been
to-
paid, you know your gross.
You will, but not if you're putting in your app ahead of time, so you have to.
Right,
wait
so you
till
have
the
to get that final payment,
Right,
but that's,
and
you've
the
got
final-
everything else, so now all
Right.
you're looking for is
Well,
one
maybe then
payment.
that's what they were saying by like an estimate, but you wouldn't be able to get the actual till after your completed work. There's just
Right,
no
but
way.
that's, you're not, still not waiting for 10 years of wages,
Right.
you're waiting for
For one.
one period,
Mm.
yeah.
You could do
just a
that,
thought.
but what's the difference? You have to wait, but you could report it and get a partial. But you
It's,
wouldn't be
I don't
able to
believe the
get
wait would be as long,
You don't think you'd get the full, do you know what I mean?
yeah. And as far as a partial or estimated payment, where does that come out of? Does that come out of the municipality or the,
I mean, if the town
pension
passes,
fund?
if the town passes an ordinance, I would assume they could pass it to come out of the pension fund, where if there's a retiree that applies for, I have an expected benefit, I just want to apply for whatever they're gonna call that ordinance, if it's gonna be $1,000 a month, like, payment.
Like a stipend to
Exactly,
hold
just
you
until
over?
that process
Right, so where
is-
does that come out of, the town
I would
or
imagine
the
they can
pension
make it-
fund?
We could do, she could order that from Rockland, like, I have an estimate person.
But let me go back to that with gross. Everybody can be different. If you're reporting annual gross wages and someone retires July, June, April, it goes back from that date back 10 years. So you would I would never be able to follow that. Do you know what I'm trying to say? You would actually have to have monthly. Think of what I'm saying, like, when you order figures, if you retire June, you're gonna go back from June.
Right, to
back.
June.
So
But if you
how-
have every
how
pay
would-
period, you would be
you would
able
have
to
have
figure
every
that out.
pay period. You
Right,
wouldn't even
which
have
is
just
how
your
it's
gross
reported to the state.
annually.
Right,
It would
it's
actually
every
have to
pay
be
period.
Monthly or weekly or bi-weekly.
Mhm.
It would actually have to be all that.
Yeah.
It couldn't just be gross by
Right.
calendar, is what I'm
Right.
saying.
Right, and that's how
Yeah.
it's reported to the state, and
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons they can so quickly figure
Do
out
it.
someone's benefit. Just
Well,
a
it's an
thought.
Thank
idea,
you.
though. It's
All
not a
right,
bad
thank you.
idea.
Thank you.
Speaking with keeping people waiting, do you want to just get through and we'll save the rest for public comment? I don't want to cut you off, but we could at least get the approvals done.
Can we do it?
Well, I don't
I
want to
mean,
lose
are you
my
going to
train of
speak, are you
thought.
going to speak on James Rathburn?
Am I going, no, I'm going to speak what they were talking
Yeah,
about.
so we should stick to the agenda first. I mean, we're still in the
do
middle
that?
of it.
Well, why'd you let everybody else talk?
Go ahead.
Because,
Go ahead.
one quick question,
Yep, go
okay?
ahead.
Just saying.
Your
People-
application.
We're talking about people waiting, I just wanted
Yeah.
to get them
We
done.
wait all the time. Application process. Goes to HR, goes to you, send it to NIAT after they do the application.
No, I get the application.
Right, you get the
They just
application.
give me confirmation.
Okay, but it gets to NIAT.
Or I send
And then
it
if there's,
actually.
NIAT has a question about figures or what was sent to them, they would call you up,
They send me an email
and then who do you see?
back to the finance department or HR, depending what the question is.
Okay, so if it's reference to a contract or something, who would you present it to?
If it's-
HR?
If it's a contract.
Yeah, let's say that you get a document, NIAC gets
I
a
would-
document, so we don't know anything about this.
Sometimes I bring that stuff to the board, depending what they're trying to interpret.
Okay,
So,
and are there minutes to that when you bring
I'm sorry?
are there minutes to that when you bring it to the board? If
I
there's a
have an
question?
email or it's on the agenda, so.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, not really minutes, but it would be on, yeah.
So could you look back to 2016, when Mrs. Kelsey put in for the death benefit of Mr. Kelsey, and see if NIAC questioned the calculation for her, if they sent you an email?
I can. I remember sending the consent judgment, I know that. for a
Right,
fact.
but
I'm
but
sure there was a question.
because NIAC doesn't interpret, correct?
No,
They wouldn't do that.
specifically.
So
states
if
in
they
the
had a
bottom of
question
the-
about it, they would email Tracy.
2016, you said?
Tracy, if we're specifically talking
Oh.
about Mrs. Kelsey, I'm gonna ask that
Oh.
you have the attorneys speak to each other, because that
Oh,
matter is an
okay.
active litigation.
It's just the process.
There's a discovery process.
Okay, sorry, then.
So we can talk to everything about, but we can't talk about Mrs. Kelsey as usual. Thank you.
Before we go any further on this agenda, we need to go back to item, let me find it, hold on. Item G1, August 2019. Okay? There's a figure here of $6,253.00. Go back to item G1, the second MBF 7372 for August of 2019. The dollar amount there, it's listed that we voted on was $6,253. The correct amount is $2,812. Write it down as I'm talking. And 0 cents.
2812?
2812 and 0 cents.
I guess I took the
Okay.
wrong amount.
What happened, yeah, I'm gonna explain it to you, Tracy, and to everyone else that's listening. If you, what you did was took last month's payment, and it's right below that number.
Oh, and added
it's
it
just,
again.
it was just a transcribed error,
Okay,
that's all.
perfect.
So, we don't need to re-vote that, do we?
You can vote to amend
Yeah,
Okay.
just
the
amend it.
payment amount.
So
All right, so,
I'd like to make a motion to amend G1, MBF 7372 to $2,812.
Second.
motion made and seconded to amend item G1, MBF 7372, August of 2019, to the corrected amount of $2,812.00. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for,
Yeah, thank you.
all right. Next one, item J, death benefits
We
to
missed,
approve.
You missed Jim Rathbun.
Oh, sorry. Item
How about that?
G4, James Rathburn, Department of Public Works, effective date 8/1/2019, for $1,339.50.
Motion to approve G4, James Rathburn, and thank him for his service.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve item G, I'm saying it right? Make sure.
4.
Yeah, G4, for James Rathburn, effective date 8/1/2019. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item J, death benefits to approve. First one, DeCanti, DiCaprio,
DiCaprio.
DiCaprio, the pump, thank you. Paul Hellman, Public Works, 9/3/2019. Its monthly amount was $842.27, and the one-time benefit is $2,000.
For the record, I'll recuse myself of J1, my grandfather.
Okay?
I'd like to make a motion to approve item J1 for Mr. DiCaprio monthly benefit $842.27, one-time benefit of $2,000. Need a second.
Motion made.
Motion made.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded to approve item J1. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item J2, Marie Bondi, 9/9/2019, monthly is $855.23, one time is $2,000.
I'd like to make a motion to approve item J2, Marie Blondin.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve item J2, Marie Blondie, 9/19/2019. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. J3, Vincenzo Sonercia, Department of Public Works, 9/7/2019. Monthly amount, $1,610.39. One-time amount is $2,000.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve item J3. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item K, return of contributions. K1, Nicole LeBoy, termination date of 8/31/2019. We didn't get a figure yet, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, we did?
Those are all the ones that just came in last
Uh,
night.
I have,
that the one you did earlier?
Mr. Chairman, I have $29,778.14.
Say it again, please.
$29,778.14. And I'll make a motion to approve K1.
I'll second K1.
Motion made and seconded to approve item K1, Nicole LeBoy, amount of $29,778.14. Effective date is 8/31/2019. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item L, discussion regarding recertification process. It is in the plan that we recertify people that are on disability pensions. It's required in the plan. Presently, we have 6 people that fall under the terms of that section. So we need to do that as required by the plan that we're required to do. Any discussion?
Is that your, need a motion?
We're gonna need to vote on this, correct?
Discussion.
Yeah, you vote on if you wanted to do it. If everyone wants a copy of the ordinance for the process on how the recertification goes forward, the clerk could certainly send everyone the ordinance, and you could just vote to go
Okay.
forward with that process, the way that it was passed, whatever the board's comfortable with.
Okay. Start off with Tracy giving us the ordinance, so we can follow it to the letter.
Okay, and then we'll vote next month on
Mhm.
this.
Yeah.
I'll
Okay,
try to find it
so
and send it.
take an action, right, to,
Just table it.
Al, can I
say something? Table this,
Just,
yeah.
just 1 second?
yeah.
Well, right.
Just want to bring this to your attention. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, just so we can, hopefully, if this goes forward, avoid some litigation. So I would be one of those 6 people
Okay.
that would have to be recertified. But also, according to my MOU, it says that I cannot receive any less than 66 2/3. So you just, you may want to run into certain kind of 2 things that kind of contradicting each other. Just an FYI, so hopefully we can avoid going forward any.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying, but you're talking 2 different things. It's not apple to apple, at least how I'm looking at it. And I pretty much think I speak for most of the members here on the board. You're disabled, not a question asked.
Yep.
But we're required under the plan to have you recertified, just recheck to
Yep.
confirm that that's still there.
Yeah.
As long as that process is.
I'm just saying that it would still be a conflict of the MOU. That's all. Because even if you come back and say, oh, you know what, you're not disabled anymore, you still have a signed MOU that says you're still entitled to their payment of 62. Just throwing it out there,
Yeah.
because I know where we'll be when this
okay.
happens,
I
where we
understand.
are all the time in litigation.
All right, yep,
Okay.
I understand.
Motion to table item L.
And, yeah, okay, never mind.
Pending receipt of the ordinance.
Motion made.
Second,
Motion made and seconded to table item L. And Tracy's gonna email us the ordinance for the procedures. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item M, discussion regarding calculations for COLA benefits for non-union employees.
Chief
I
Barris,
believe you met with the town on
Was that just Chief
That-
Barris or was that
yeah.
more?
I believe it was that discussion. I don't think
Has,
there was any,
I don't think we've got an answer back from the manager.
I haven't heard anything on that.
All right, I will, I know we've sent emails on that. I've got another question to ask him personally, so I'll make an appointment for that, so I guess I'm doing two things. So let me write this down now.
You guys can table that?
Yes,
Just gonna wait for him to finish writing.
and that question you have to ask is related to this item M.
no, I have another
Okay.
issue, to ask him about, just,
All right.
something that he's brought up before, and just wanted clarification on some things, but
So my understanding
Chief
is,
Barris, we have met, and we sent him emails also. Haven't got an answer back.
okay, so we don't have enough information to make a decision on this, correct?
Right, because,
Okay.
and I explained it to him, and he understood the problems we had, he didn't have an answer, and he was gonna research it and get an answer, and
Okay,
we haven't got, so I will
So-
follow up with that.
I'd like to recommend then that we table item M.
I'll make a motion.
Make a
to
motion,
Table item M.
sorry.
Motion made and seconded to table item M. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item N. Discussion regarding calculation of COLA benefits for retirees and medical co-pays. Are we gonna start off with the first part that I was out before?
It's the same as the NIHA questions on the police disability. Yeah.
Well, I was talking about the perk.
Oh, that there's a lawsuit that's been filed?
Is that in this or no?
Yeah, it was all COLA benefits, that the questions that come from
Right.
NIHA, so it can go either here or in S, either one. Yeah, no, you're right, it's here.
So,
Sorry.
we're just gonna split them up like we did before?
Sure.
So which one you gonna wanna do first, so that I know what to do?
Either one, whatever you wanna do, Mr. Chairman.
All right, you wanna take over and do the first part like we did at the executive? And I'll step up?
What do you have to recuse? Because it's really just, we're stating the case.
No, for the,
We have no vote on that.
there's no vote. For the COLA benefits, it's just to bring to the board's attention that a lawsuit has been filed against the town
Right.
regarding the calculation of COLA benefits for certain retiree groups. That lawsuit is being handled by the town solicitor, and it's just information to let you know that the lawsuit exists. That's it for that.
Okay.
The other question on this piece was the calculation of benefits for police disability retirees under the 2014-19 CBA.
State that last part again, please. I was writing something else.
Sure. It's a question about the COLA benefits or escalators for police disability retirees under the 2014-2019 CBA,
Right.
which is also under the NIHAR question, so, but I can talk about it now.
Yeah, let's do that since it's here.
Sure. NIHAR has raised a question, and that question's been brought to the board, as to the proper application of the COLA versus escalators for disability retirees under the 2014-2019 CBA for police officers. The question has come up because the CBA provides in paragraph, in section 4 on page 32, that employees who remain away from their regular employment as police officers for the town due to reasons stated in Article 14 shall at the expiration of 18 continuous months return to regular duty within 30 days thereafter, or shall be deemed physically unfit for duty and therefore shall be placed on disability retirement, and shall be paid at the rate of 2/3 of the salary of the rank they held at the time of their disability, and that their disability pension payments shall continue to be no less than 2/3 of the salary being received by an active police officer holding the same rank during the time the member is on disability retirement. There's also a provision earlier on section 1 on the pension plan that discusses retirement benefits and discusses cost of living. And in paragraph F on page 31, it discusses that how employees who retire after July 1st, 2000 shall be entitled to a 2 1/4% compounded cost of living increase on each anniversary date of retirement for a maximum of 15 consecutive years. Notwithstanding the foregoing, effective July 1st, 2013 and thereafter, the annual cost of living adjustment, COLA, due to each member as provided for herein or in any other CBA shall be suspended for 7 years commencing on each member's retirement date. When it resumes, the COLA shall be calculated at an annual rate of 2 1/4% compounded annually for 15 years. There's also a provision on page 33, which is under section 4, disability retirement, part D, that discusses members who retire on disability shall have their disability pension benefit calculated on annual base salary. Members with an occupational disability who remain occupationally disabled at the time of their retirement will continue to be treated in accordance with the town's ordinances and the pension plan. A disabled member who is not occupationally disabled at the retirement age provided in the plan shall have his or her pension benefits reduced to an amount equal to the member's accrued benefit under paragraph 1D hereof, and shall not have their pension benefits thereafter increased by any escalator provision in the town's pension ordinances, the pension plan, or any collective bargaining agreement. Provided, however, that such member shall receive a cost of living adjustment for 15 consecutive years, irrespective of how many years said member received a COLA while collecting a disability pension, applicable to such member under the applicable collective bargaining agreement without suspension or variance as provided in subparagraph 1F hereof. So the question from the actuary has been the interplay of those 3 sections and how to calculate the benefits for a disabled retiree under this contract for a police officer, where there are provisions potentially for a COLA, for an escalator, and for a COLA or an escalator, depending on the status of the disability retiree at the time of retirement. So my recommendation would be that the board issue a formal opinion answering the actuary's questions, referring to the sections of the plan so that the actuary has the appropriate information to make that decision.
So I'll make a motion for legal to analyze the situation and come off, offer an opinion to the board in regards to answering the questions that NIHART has.
Second.
Motion made and seconded for legal to
Make an analysis and offer an opinion.
make analysis and form an opinion to bring back to the next meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item P, Discussion regarding,
Oh, Mr. Chairman,
Oh,
Peter Blaze.
okay, sorry. Item O, discussion regarding Peter Blaze occupational disability application and IMEs. Tracy, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have all his IMEs, correct? I remember reading that.
yes,
That all the requirements, what we have to do, correct?
yes.
You haven't gone out for calculations on him until the IMEs, or you did?
No, because I didn't know what you guys
Right.
were gonna vote on.
So that's the only thing we need to
Yep,
send that
and then I
to.
can order the figures this
Okay.
week.
So it's approving his application
Yeah.
and authorizing.
And the IMs.
All right. I'll
We
make a
didn't know
motion.
how the doctor was gonna.
Right. I'll motion to approve item O, Peter Blaze, his application and the IMEs that we were received, and authorize the clerk to obtain figures for his pension.
I second.
Motion made and seconded to approve item O, Peter Blaze's application as IMEs, and to forward information to NIHOT to calculate his figures. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item P, discussion regarding Deborah Levine, non-occupational application and IMEs. This, again, we've talked about her a couple of times just as an example, but, for other situations, but her application is in order. We have a long delay in getting IMEs, and apologize for that, but they are all in order, so we just need to continue this process.
I'll make a motion to approve item P, Deborah Levine, in her application and her IMEs, and
Tracy
request,
sent it to NIHOT.
yeah, request the clerk to calculate the benefits.
I second.
Motion made and seconded to approve item P, Deborah Levine's application, IMEs, and have the clerk start working with NIHOT on her figures. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item Q, RFQ for actuary. We first talked about this a few meetings back. I got a couple phone calls asking if we do an RFQ or we do an RFP. We, as a board, discussed this in executive session, and we are gonna do an RFP and
RFP.
RFP, yep. So I'm also gonna look into the state, speak with Mr. Magazine to see if we can have them, if they will do it, and if it's possible for them to do the actuary stuff and save us some money and time, because their turnaround is a lot faster, as we heard earlier tonight. So that's the first thing I'm gonna do, and then after that, if that's not an avenue we can go, then work with finance and that, and start putting a proposal together so we can get the proposals out there and get some information back, and then see where we go with that for who we're gonna have for an actuary. Any other discussion? Okay. Item R, discussion regarding part-time employment post-retirement ordinances amended. Was that, the stuff that was still,
Did the council end up voting?
yeah,
And
okay.
they,
He's going, he's still here? I can't see.
he is. Yes.
Sir, could you come up to the front? Yes, sir. Oh, yeah. Mr. Chardy, sorry.
Appreciate it later.
Did the council ever get an answer back from the school department regarding this?
Regarding what?
Part-time employment? I know the
Not that
council
not that
sent-
I'm aware of.
Sent that to the school committee and get an answer back from them, and I haven't heard any more.
Not that I'm aware of. I would check with the council president on that. I know he's away right now.
Okay,
That typically would go through him.
all right. But council as always, because this was several meetings back.
Yep.
So you haven't had anything to have an actual discussion on.
Correct.
Okay.
So I don't have an answer for you.
My list is growing longer by the day.
Do you wanna just table it?
Yeah, table it, and I will,
Motion to table item R.
Second,
Any other question?
no, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We figured since you were here, we,
Thank you.
That's fine.
Discussion action.
We went over the
Question.
Roundhouse stuff.
I don't think there was any more.
No,
do you know if he's gonna be at the meeting tomorrow night, sir?
the assumption.
President?
I believe the whole entire council is here.
Okay, thank you. Did, we pass it?
I don't think we called the vote. We had a
You
motion
said
and a
table, right?
second. Yeah, we had a
Right, there's
motion
a
and a second
motion
to
for-
table, right?
We got a motion to table.
I said second.
Okay, motion made and seconded, table. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now I got questions. I believe we have answered all them. Is that
The
correct?
GASB assumptions, no.
What's that?
The assumptions.
Okay, the assumptions. The assumptions have been done by the previous town manager and town financial person. They've been done that for several years. Board's never done that. The new manager and finance, when the question was brought up by Neidhart, they said, we're not doing that, that's the pension board's issue. Tracy and I spoke with them, and when they told us that, and said, well, we've never done that, so, they said, no, that's your responsibility. And I guess it is, we look on what we can find. Tracy and I talked with, and again, on our Wednesday nights, tying up loose end meeting, for lack of a better term, called Neidhart and spoke with them, and they explained how this system works in that. It basically, it's life expectancy, so they can calculate and do projections. This industry has a standard, and there's 2 versions of it, and they update that and it's for time periods. She said that right now, I don't remember what was it, 17 or 18 is the one they're using, then there's 20 and 25 at the next standard when they do that. I don't remember exact numbers for the years, but she said the difference wasn't that much, and her recommendation was to stay with the same system that we've been using the last few years. We went through some scenarios stuff just to see, they asked me, well, is there anything that down the road where I've learned that you figure it out ahead of time, make sure you don't run into something you haven't covered. And we discussed a few things, and there really was nothing that was an issue to worry about. So I told her, okay, then to go ahead and do it like she's been doing. So they needed approval. Neidhart will not do anything unless they get approval from somebody, especially if it comes into something with a bill, then it is and put in writing, and we actually have to sign it. So I have told them to go ahead and do that. It's something they've been doing right along. It's just instead of town manager and finance doing it like they've been in the past, now the board has to do it. So basically, I'm just updating everybody on it.
Are they asking you to put it in writing, or?
No, they just needed permission to go ahead and do what they've been doing. It's just they needed it from us versus the town manager.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Yeah, they're asking the board to confirm to continue using a 7.5% discount rate and to use the following mortality tables.
Right.
For police and fire healthy lives, to use the RP 2014 blue collar mortality table with generational improvements from 2006 based on the 2019 Social Security Administration Trustees Report. For other healthy lives and beneficiaries, the RP 2014 mortality table with generational improvements from 2006 based on the 2019 Social Security Administration Trustees Report. And for disabled lives, the RP 2014 Disabled Mortality Table with generational improvements from 2006 based on the 2019 Social Security Administration Trustees Report. So they're just asking to confirm that those are the assumptions that the board wants them to use for the 6/30/19 GASB 67 and 68 reports and the 7/1/19 valuation for the plan.
That's all the stuff that we did talk about. I remember it all, but you used to say it comes back. Okay,
So just to discuss it, this is something that should have been brought to the board's attention and we should have approved of anyway. I'm glad that it is coming to our attention. We should be able to determine what our discount rate is and what tables we're using. Typically, the council or the manager would go with the recommendation, and typically, I think we would entrust our actuary to give us a
Okay.
proper recommendation anyway. But I'm glad to see that we're handling this issue, and I'll make a motion to approve their recommendations.
did you know, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you've been here longer than all of us. Did you know that they've been doing that right along?
So when we would get the actuary reports, they would just tell us that if the tables have been updated, they were updated.
But you didn't know who was, yeah.
We assumed that it was just because that was the industry standard and that's why they did it. I didn't realize that was actually being authorized by the town manager to go ahead and do that.
Okay, I mean, we've taken their word on what they're saying, and this town manager said we don't do that anymore, so I'm assuming that he looked up and knew that was being done.
It needs to be brought to light that what tables they're using are accurate, and this goes back decades of time where they were using tables that maybe weren't so accurate, and maybe is why we're in some of the problems that we're in. So it's
Yeah.
good that these are getting into meetings, and into minutes that everyone can see.
All right. Motion's been made,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's okay. This,
Okay, item T, benefits for disability retiree survivors.
So I have been contacted by an attorney for for Mrs. Kelsey regarding whether or not there are COLA benefits provided for survivors of disability retirees in the consent judgment. And I have emailed back and forth with her. She has asked that the board put the matter on the agenda. It would be my recommendation that the board have a formal opinion issued regarding the question of COLA payments in the 2014 disability retirees consent judgment, and that the board put it on for a vote for next month for a formal board opinion regarding this question.
Next one.
Correct.
Right. Any discussion?
Just put on, for the record, I will recuse myself from item T.
Maybe excuse himself.
Any concerns?
We need,
I can make a motion if there's no further discussion.
I was just gonna say, we,
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion then that we, that the board develop this opinion with the assistance of our counsel and provide it for a vote next month.
motion made,
Second.
I second the motion.
motion made and seconded to have the board's legal, develop, an opinion and present it back to the board next month for, approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item U, public comment.
Kevin O'Connell, Chairperson of the West Warwick Police and Disability. I know you conferred with a lawyer, but it isn't under litigation, so we're going to talk about it. Okay, this 2% COLA came into process July 1st, July 1st of 2019. It is now October, okay? Claims procedure under the pension plan, notwithstanding anything else to the contrary, if any person is denied benefits under the plan, the pension board shall notify such claimant of its decision in writing, given the reason for such decision, advising the claimant of his or her request, hearing before the full pension board. Such request must be made in writing to the pension board within 60 days of the notice. A failure to properly file, Well, if you didn't give her the benefits in July, you denied her the benefits, because where are they? Where's her letter? Why haven't you people given her a letter? Explain it.
I'll ask the board not to comment on anticipated.
There's no litigation, Counselor. Stay out of it. There is no litigation. There is no litigation, believe me, because I pay the bills. She may have conferred with a lawyer, but there is no litigation at this time under the 2%. The town council discussed it. They agreed that she should get it, then they backtracked. Mr. Licciardi said it was ASAP, and she never got it. So we're now going into November, July 1st. It came to your attention, and you never voted on it, you never cited it, and you never followed your own pension plan. Why? You had a counselor there. She should have told you to vote on it. She's been at every meeting. Why didn't she tell you to vote on it? If you didn't make a decision on it, it means you denied her the benefits, because otherwise it'd be in her pension check.
Are we talking about COLA benefits?
We're talking about the 2% COLA benefit. Yes, ma'am, we are.
For retiree survivors, right?
Correct.
And we just voted to come up with an opinion
It's October. You knew about it in July.
next month, and,
This is why everybody's teed off with you, because they don't get pensions for 4 or 5 months, and now we're getting a decision in maybe November or December, and you sit there shaking your head, okay, because it doesn't affect you. That's the problem with this board. It doesn't affect you, so you just don't care, because you knew about it. If you didn't read the pension plan, did you know it was in the pension plan about this claim?
I will ask the board not to.
Of course not. There's no comment, okay, because you got your lawyer there sitting with you. Okay? But this woman suffers. This woman suffers, and she's being discriminated not only by the town of West Warwick, but now the West Warwick Pension Board. So live with that, because you have a duty under this, and you failed to do your duty. And the town council should be asking for everybody's resignation, because they didn't follow the pension plan. It's on them. It's not on us. And now we'll get to the next decision. 2 months ago, I came to you people and told you about 4 gentlemen that were receiving benefits under our MOU that never went to court. I told you to do an investigation. We were doing ours. I met with the gentleman who's getting the benefits. Okay? You advised me he was getting the benefits. The town council advised he's getting the benefits. Why is he getting the benefits, and what are you doing about it? Or you can't comment because of your attorney.
You can't comment because it's not on the agenda, but we can certainly entertain whatever information you would like to provide.
I did it 2 months ago. Why haven't you put it on executive session? I told you 2 months ago, right? Didn't I come here and tell you that were the 4 gentlemen receiving benefits under an MOU that they never went to Superior Court and signed? That's the bottom line, gentlemen and ladies. It's your responsibility to do something. But again, you sit there and you look at me like, oh my God, what is he talking about? What is he talking about? What are you going to do about it? Probably nothing. Probably nothing. And that's why this pension system is going down the tubes. You may not see it, but I see it. And you're all responsible for it. Because if you can't follow your own pension plan, it's ludicrous. I mean, it's in the pension plan. that you people have to do certain things, and you're not doing them. Why? Or don't you know? Maybe none of you's read the pension plan. Is that true? Have any of you's read it, or do you rely on her to tell you what's in it? Any comment? I'm waiting. Have anybody read the MOU? I'm waiting. Helena, have you read the MOU entirely?
Mr. O'Connell, the board does not have to answer the questions, but you're
Of
welcome
course
to
not.
speak.
That's right, I am going to speak.
Absolutely.
And now that the town council knows what's going on here, maybe they'll act. Because this is a shame what you people are putting through. These people who gave this, as Dee Dee would say, their blood, sweat, and guts to work for you, go out and do their job, and this is how we get paid back by the town of West Warwick and the West Warwick Pension Board. Before I excluded you, now you're included in it, because now you know. It's just ridiculous.
Any other public comment?
Hi. I just have one question. Has there been any more talk about looking into entering the mayor's system? I know we talked about it a while ago, and it was brought up, and I think we clearly showed we could save tens of thousands of dollars, if not over $100,000 every year. I don't just want to know if anybody's looked into it, or we're just putting it on the back burner, or because obviously we're having problems here, so we need to do something. This isn't working.
Last I knew, it was up to legislators to change the regulations.
Yeah, that's not where it is. He came down,
Yeah.
and before any of that ever happened, somebody needs to meet with Magazina, and they need to do an actuary study on the town's pension before they can. He said that was the next step, which I said at the when I came up here and talked last time. So I guess nobody listened to that, but that would be
Steve,
the next step.
We have listened, just stop. I mean, we are independently probably investigating it more than, others, but we are definitely looking into it. I know I'm definitely looking into it. I'm interested. A lot of the things that happen, like I discussed, isn't fair. The employees, the retirees, the town, they deserve a board that can, or really a system that can work for everybody. And the MERS system, I mean, they're turning around in 15 days and getting applications processed. That's just part of it. There's a lot of things that they could do a lot cheaper, a lot more beneficial. And to answer your question as far as what this board can do, because really, we can't just give up our authority to the MERS system. It really has to be through the town, through the employees, through the retirees. All the groups have to agree to it. We're kind of limited into our power of migrating into MERS. We can certainly speak to it, and I will personally speak to, I think that's a good idea. But one thing we can do is with going out for an RFP or an RFQ for an actuary is bring Seth Magaziner into the fold and say, what can we do better? Can we use your actuary? Just start the conversation, see what he can do for us. I know Central Falls has partially migrated some, either their funds or some of their
Yeah, they're in the
administrative
process of working to us,
duties.
but everything.
That's something we should definitely look into, I think, but that required special legislation that had to be passed, and it's something that
So,
was at one point a conversation that occurred to get the ball rolling. And I think the actuary, I'm hoping that can get us into that fold.
so if you're saying that doesn't fall on you, then would it be the council? Is that where we would go talk to?
I think it is, because the town council is gonna have to allocate money to do the.
Well, that's
to do
part
some-
of-
Well,
some
or we could
reports and
talk to
stuff.
you, I mean, we blow money on lawyers through the roof. I mean, maybe this would make more sense for us to help ourselves for once. Let's spend some money to help us.
Definitely a conversation with the council, a collaborative meeting would help. There's a number of ideas, but like I said, I think the actuary, if the chairman would please, I would beg to start that ball rolling.
I think we really need to, I don't know who would start it, I don't know if we need to talk to the council, if Albert, but I will tell you this, the next step is not legislation. According to Mr. Magaziner, the next step is to, because they need to do an actuary on this town to actually get numbers for everybody to see what it would cost and all that. So he did say 100% that the next step is for an actuarial study to be done. And he did say that we would have to pay for it, but he would try to get it in the legislation. Were you there, Dave? I think you were. He would try to get it into the legislation if we decided to go that way to get the town reimbursed. So I just think that, I don't want to see this wait. I mean, this has been put on, we're going down, the ship
We
is
have-
sinking,
we have a
and,
deadline.
and we need to do
He
something.
said he'd be willing to work with the town.
He said, he was
I get
saying
that.
he would bend over
And that
backwards
means
for
a
us.
lot to work, you know,
Right.
working with, it covers a number of things.
Yeah, I mean,
just-
he couldn't have said any more that he would work with us, so, I think, okay, sorry, I'm talking a
No,
lot.
go ahead, I just wait.
No, go ahead.
There's two things. One, Central Falls has people, not all of them, because they're in that transition period, when they went in bankruptcy.
Yep.
They've got some people that are in the MERS system.
Yes.
And some original employees aren't. So that was kind of how they've got them doing some things for them. They already have like a half a foot in the door. We have nothing. We talked about it tonight earlier. We're gonna try and see if we can get them to do the actuary. He's the one who's gonna know us whether or not, tell us, when I talk to him, whether or not we can do this before we actually go out and get proposals just to see if we can get it done, one, faster, and two, cheaper.
Yep.
He's gonna let us know whether we can even do that, what the state will allow, okay? The other part is, and I wasn't at that meeting, but I understand what you're saying about, he said we need to do an actuary thing. That makes sense, that's business practice, that's perfect. The question comes up, who's gonna pay for that? Now, you mentioned, he said he reimbursed the town, but it's not the town, it would be our pension money paying for that. The issue that I have personally with it is, and I don't think we really discussed this as a board as a whole, but now that you bring it up, if we get to that point, is we spend X number of dollars of pension money to pay for that, and what if they say, no, it's no good? We just blew that much money.
My suggestion to that is, I sat up here and showed over do you remember the meeting I was here, and I handed out all packets, and I used all the town's numbers, your numbers, over 3 years, I believe, don't hold me to this, but it was either over 3 or 4 years, we would have saved over $1 million by going into the MERS system. So you can't tell me $10,000 for a chance at fixing this whole thing versus $1 million over 3 or 4 years. We blow money around here like it's going crazy. $10,000 to help all of us out here to try to fix this pension system? I mean, you're saying we don't want to blow that money. We're blowing money like it's going out of style here.
Steve, what I'm saying is, what's the guarantee?
There is none.
If you got a 30% guarantee, 40%, 50%, you'll have no way of even knowing if it's, he's saying he needs to do this.
Yep.
But he's not telling you whether or not it's even physically possible.
He can't until you do the actuary. You're throwing this where we don't want to waste money. We're wasting money every day. Let's spend money that might help us instead of just watching the ship go down and down. And you're right, it may not work out, but what do we got to lose?
All right, I have a question then.
Sure.
Let's say we do this, and the figures come out and say you can. So you're saying that he's telling us, and I'll ask him this when I
Yeah.
sit with him, that if the figures prove that it's okay for them and it's worth it to do it,
Yep.
that they're gonna take us in without any legislation, without any approval?
No. You still have to get this is a process. What he said was, we need to do an actuary study because we need to find out where we are.
Okay.
He would try to, if we were to go into the system, and the word was try there, to reimburse the town for it. Once the figures come back, it's still gonna be up to, I would assume, the town council, I would assume the pension board, to see if all these numbers work.
Right.
Okay, so there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees the way we're going right now it's gonna work, because obviously it's not looking too
My
good.
question, though, Steve, is the figures work and everything's okay.
Yeah.
Who gives the final authority? Say the council says we're all on board with it and everything, the figures work out.
Yeah.
Is it him? Is it legislation? Who says that we can actually physically take that money and
Yeah.
put it in there?
So he said that legislation would have to be drawn up. He would, if, again, I'm assuming all this works out.
Right.
He would personally back the legislation, okay? Yes, you're right. Once it gets to that point, there would have to be legislation sent in. But he said, I would personally back it in, and he believes he could get the legislation to pass. Again, there's no guarantees,
All right, I find fault with one little thing of what he's saying.
Yeah,
I did go a couple other meetings way back in the beginning when he first came to the PERC and that.
yeah.
The legislation hasn't been convinced that the different times he's going to them to try and do this. They basically want 100% or nothing. He's been trying to get them to do amendment.
Now, you're
parts of
talking-
it.
It's never gone that far.
That has nothing to do with that. Steve's talking about 4 or 5 years ago when they talked to Seth Magazine. It's all changed.
Yeah.
They're trying, believe me.
They
it's-
want to save
Because
us.
if he couldn't convince legislation then, how does he, what's the chance?
Hell, it
now?
never went to legislation, too.
What they're doing is modifying. They understand the problem. I don't know if you guys get it, but they understand the problem, that the majority of the pension plans out there are in critical status, okay? They do not want you people to fail. They don't, but they see it coming, okay? You see it coming, somewhere in the back of your head, you see it coming, because the 14 or 15 million that the town will eventually have to put into the system, they cannot afford. They'll tell you, they already voted down one budget this year, okay, because it was too high for 2-point-some%. They had to get it to 1. So when it comes to 14 or 15 million dollars
Well, a
to
big
put into
problem.
the pen, that's right. There's no way the town voters are gonna vote into that. Okay, they're not gonna vote for a 7% increase. They're not. So what happens? Your pension fails because the town can't put in the 100% for the ARC anymore. The town just can't do it. We can't afford it. They go bankrupt. Pension fund goes bankrupt. Okay, we use the assets, and we go bankrupt. They don't want that to happen, so he says, yeah, what I told you 4 or 5 years ago, it's changed now. We want to bring you people in, so there can be special legislation. If you want to come in, we can take West Warwick and adapt them so you can get in. And then Coventry, which is different than West Warwick, we can, if they agree to go in, they can do their legislation. No legislation is going to be the same for every community. It's not going to happen, because we all got different pension plans.
But is he basically saying what you're saying, that he's saying that basically, if it gets to that point, he can guarantee that they'll have legislation for West Warwick?
There is no guarantee, but here's the problem you have. What is the guarantee that your pension system is going to sustain itself?
There is nothing for anything, no guarantee for anything.
Correct, exactly. So what do you got to lose if you're gonna charge you $10,000? Whether it comes out of this pension fund, you just said you got 35 million in it now, compared to 25 or 29 that you had before. So using that money to do to get it started, to get the voices started, and say, hey, look, we're all trying to work this. I know the council wants to. I've talked to Mr. Licciardi, I've talked to Mary Beth. I hope they're not pulling my chain, okay? They want to go into this because they know it's unsustainable. They're the town council. They know what's at stake here, okay? The state doesn't want us to fail, but if we do, you know what's gonna happen? We're gonna go bankrupt, you're gonna get 50%, you're gonna get 50%, and I'm gonna get 50%. And then we're all gonna say, you know, well, why didn't we try a little harder? Why didn't we all try a little harder? You know, why didn't we have this conversation? That's why we're trying to have the conversation. Do you think I wanted to do this first meeting? I suggested that we have a big meeting up at the high school and let everybody go, union and everybody else, to get up there and ask their questions. Because your question is different than my question. And his question is different than his question. And it goes on, it goes forth. You have to have the conversation. But if we're just letting it die, and that's all Steve's saying, don't let it die. Let's get the actuary study. If that's what's got to be done the next step, let's get it done. Go to the town council, have a meeting. Go with the union groups, have a meeting and say, hey, let's spend this money. It's good money to see if it's feasible. Because the other alternative guys, we're dying. We're dying. We're on a slow death. You know it. I know it. Okay? It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
But Kevin, look at it from the board side of view, just for a second. Meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, and even when I sat on that side, it was on then, and it happened again tonight more than once. We constantly get banged for spending money, expenses too high, we haven't trying to trim them down. We have done things, at least since I've been here, I started with one task at a time and been saving money here and there wherever I can. We question things, we look at things. They worked on and found an error tonight, and we saved some money right there.
Can I stop you for a minute there? That is ridiculous what you're saying.
Hold
Because
on,
I
let me-
told you 10 years ago, when I sat on this board, or 15 years ago, we didn't have her right there. Okay, there's your big money maker, right there. Okay? You don't need an attorney at every meeting now. You don't. We never had one. I had Susan McGurl, the town solicitor, as my person. If I had a question, I'd table it and call her up the following day and ask her, Sue, we had a legal problem. Can you answer this for me? Okay, give me a written opinion, we'll do it the next meeting. She never even attended a pension board meeting. It was Steve Alves and Vinnie Mazzullo that wanted a lawyer because they didn't like Sue. And I'll tell you, if you really want to get into the meat and crust of this, I'll give you the tapes. They're sitting down in my office. They're on cassette. You can hear Vinnie Mazzullo and Steve Alves saying, we want our own attorney because we don't like Susan McGurl's opinions to this board. And you know what Vinnie Mazzullo said? I said, me and Eddie Calci sat here. You can hear our voices in the background. Who's going to pay for this? Vinnie Mazzullo goes, well, we're not going to pay for it. We'll send it to the town like we do all the other administrative costs that we do. We just send it to the town and let them pay it. No, so Steve Alves changed it. It'll pay the administrative costs through the pension plan. You know why? Because you got an open checkbook. If he saw $12,000 coming in for legal fees, he would want to know, because he would have to raise the taxpayers' levy, because they'd have to come up with that money. But you got a blank check. That's what it was all about. You think it's complicated because they had an attorney here. It's not complicated. They only did it because they didn't like Susan McGurl. That's it.
Kevin, that's not what I'm at. What I'm saying is, we're constantly getting complaints and put on us about spending money and expenses.
What do we
But you
complain
have,
about, Al?
let me finish. You have no problem with throwing $10,000 out, and that's okay. But if we spend $3,000 or something, your question is on it. So I don't understand the logic
Do
of
you
that.
hear yourself what you just said? I'm throwing $10,000 out. Don't you understand we are sinking? We are sinking.
Listen, Kevin, I'm gonna
Okay?
just say
You
one.
just spent $12,000.
Will you let me finish?
9,300 was off.
I'm just throwing some numbers out there. My point is, I get a bill here for something, all right? And an actual thing that's been done by, say, Nighthawk, for an example. That's something we have to pay and see. I understand the 10,000 or whatever the amount is to do the actuary study, but you're telling me there's no guarantee. So my concern is spending the pension money where, I'm not sure if that's the proper way to do it, because as you well stated, and I know and the rest of us know, we don't have a lot to go. My own personal opinion, it's if we do that, I think the town council or the town should pay for it. It shouldn't come out of pension money, because it will help them if they don't have this burden, because overall, they still gotta do the actuary.
I just want to say one last thing, and I'll sit down. You keep talking about spending money, and everybody's mad at spending money. For once, $10,000 would actually benefit the people out here. Probably the first time we've spent money in a long time that'll actually possibly benefit people out here. So I think $10,000, me personally, is a small token to try to get this fixed. I mean, if you could tell me it'd be fixed, I'll write you a check tomorrow so I still get a pension for $10,000. So this, you're using, everyone's claiming on money, and they do, and I hear you on that. But this is something that is actually possibly going to help us. So in my opinion, it's the first time we're spending money the way it should be spent. All right? And then my other thing is, instead of talking about all the ways it won't work, because that's all I've heard since you and I started talking, oh, this won't happen, and this can't happen, this can't happen. Let's find out. You may be right. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying you're right. But we don't know unless we try. And that's all. That's it.
Thank you.
I just have a question. Are we under contract with the actuaries that we have for certain?
They're at will.
They're at will. Perfect. So I would suggest we don't sign any contracts going forward just in case, because that'll be the next thing.
This is going back to this whole, there's a lot of discussion, a lot of things happening, a lot of talking, but the whole point of what I was trying to make earlier is that this actuary discussion that we're having, this RFP or RFQ, is going to hopefully bring us into the fold with Seth Magaziner and see, can we get an actuary to say, you know what, we'll do that calculation at no cost? Well, and it's happened.
Sure. No,
Last
I
time we
agree.
went with, we kept Nyhart, we had them pay for setting up the fees that would cost us to do the benefit statements annually. Things like this can happen, especially if you start asking for proposals.
He was pretty specific at that meeting. They could not pay out of state funds.
Yeah.
Not saying they can pay out of state funds, I'm saying the actuary that the state uses may give us a break on some of these costs. They may say, yeah, if you go with our company, we'll throw in the
Oh,
calculation.
you're talking for our costs?
Yes,
I'm
yes.
saying about what he
But
told me.
the point remains that my thoughts are that whole actuary conversation with Magaziner can bring us into the fold.
Yeah, no,
We're
I
not
understand
against it. I'm not against it, believe me, I'm for it. I
Just
think
my
it's a
question,
great-
Dave, I hear you. My only question was, are we looking at this? And it kind of went off
I am, I'll
into
tell you.
in a whole different direction. But I just don't want this to die, because I think we just need to look
I
into it,
agree.
that's all. And
You do have to bring this up with the town council, because if we're changing the pension system, that's not this board's responsibility.
Yeah.
That's the town council's responsibility to create an ordinance to change the pension system, so.
Okay, yeah, I guess that was my question. Where do we go from here? Because I don't want this to go 2 years, or, oh, well, we didn't know who to talk to, because we know the battle that goes on between the town council and the
I think
pension.
knowledge-
Everybody puts it
knowledge
on
is
each
power.
other.
Knowledge is power. We need to know
Yeah.
what we can do first, and the actuary assessment was the first thing to be done.
Yeah, okay.
So how about you send an invitation to him to come to the.
We've
next
already done that.
board- Yeah, but well, I don't think he came to the board meeting.
Yeah, well, we had him come and,
Give us the steps to what's the next. step.
yeah, well, he had a meeting, and I believe she was there. Dave, were you there?
I missed the last one he did. was
Yeah,
away.
I mean,
I've
so
seen
I
it
mean, we could
before.
try that again. I just feel like, how many times is it gonna make this poor guy come out and nobody shows up?
I'm gonna call him and set up a meeting and go to his office, whatever I gotta do, and find out, just like David said, we talked about this. We're trying to actuary part. I have some issues with them, different people, we have different issues, different things, but overall, we're looking to change it. So, I'm gonna go to him, discussion was tonight, before we actually go out and do, and get something out for the general public, to see if we can use their services, if it will work, if this is saving money, and that.
Yeah,
And so if he says okay, and he says, yeah, you can work this, we can do that, or set it up, we'll see what Doug comes up with.
yeah.
If nothing else, it's a foot in the door. As far as what you're saying, looking that up, as far as the, that, I understand everything you're saying, and I'm not against it. If you think that, I'm not. I'm just trying to keep our expenses down. I don't want, and I'm not saying anybody here in this room will do it three months down the road if we do this and they say no. I just don't want somebody to come back and say, you spent $10,000, you got nothing.
I hear what you're saying now, I do, but, and this is the last thing I'm gonna say. I don't think you're gonna get one person here to complain about that. I think you're misunderstanding where we're complaining about your spending money. This is something that could save us, if anything, and again, I'm one opinion, so if anything, I think this is great money to be spent, because this might save every single one of us.
We'll see
you
what
know?
he says when we have the meeting with him,
Yeah.
and then we'll
I
go
think
from
that's
there.
gonna be
And
the
if he
figure.
If he thinks it's not a big issue, and we as a board, the only thing we'll have to figure out is if the council has to do it, because everything is done by ordinance,
Yeah.
then we'll go.
Well,
with
I
it.
think,
I'm not totally against it.
Mr. Ricciardi's here tonight, so maybe
So
we
we'll get an
can, we
answer,
can
maybe.
talk to him and, all right, thank you. I didn't.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Right.
Hi, I just want to make a quick comment. My name is Cynthia Kelsey. Can you hear me?
Would you tell us your name, please?
Cynthia Kelsey. Hi, I was an employee of the town school department, and I've retired. My husband is in this group. He was a firefighter, disability, and I've been sitting here listening to that you people. My husband gets a pension, and in July 1st, he got his COLA. Okay, no qualms about it. Everyone got theirs, but my sister-in-law, Diane Kelsey, did not get it. My brother-in-law was, just because he passed away, he was a firefighter, and he got the same pension as everyone else. Now, on July 1st, there was no reason for him, my sister-in-law, not to get that COLA. And as I sit here tonight, listening to you and to your lawyer, telling you can't, comment and all this other thing, because you people have to take a vote. You actually have to take a vote to decide if my sister-in-law, Diane Kelsey, can get a COLA that belongs to her and that belonged to my brother-in-law is absolutely horrifying to me. I don't understand it. I think it's terrible, and I hope that this next meeting, then you decide, that I hope you all decide to give it to her, because she deserves it just as much, just because my brother-in-law isn't here to receive it. She deserves it, and she deserves everything that she's going for. And it's very, very disheartening to me. And I'm just really upset. So I have to make this comment, and I hope you make that do the right thing. Do the right thing by my brother-in-law. He was a good man, and he did everything that he was supposed to do. And he deserves it, and she deserves it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did we discuss that?
We did.
I was asked to come here tonight just to listen, but because I'm here, my name's being thrown out quite a bit. I just want to let everyone know that I am 1/5 of the council. I'm 20% of the council. So I'm not here to make any decisions on behalf of the council here tonight. I am here to listen, to gain a knowledge of what's going on, because there's been a lot of chatter on many things, on many different issues. But I do have some questions from some constituents that have asked me to ask questions. And the one thing I would like to do, again, I'm not speaking on behalf of the council, but there's been a lot of questions here tonight as far as going into the MERS system. Last I knew is I was at the meeting when Seth Magaziner came in at the senior center. Since then, there's been a lot of questions, been a lot of speculations. There really hasn't been a move forward. There's been, like I'm listening here tonight, people asking questions to the pension board asking questions to the former employees. It's going to get nowhere. It's just going to get, all I'm seeing here tonight, with no disrespect to anybody, but it's just, I can see resentment going back and forth, and there's no answers. So we have a council meeting tomorrow night. Next meeting will be first Tuesday in November. The only thing I can do is I can put it on the agenda for the council meeting. So if anybody would like to attend from the pension board, employees, former employees, to ask questions, and we may not know the answer. We didn't get much more information than you guys have. But I think, like you just said, the ball needs to start somewhere. So instead of throwing around figures of 3,000 and 10,000, and if we can go in, or who's going to go in, I think we need to start at this meeting. And I'll talk to the town manager this week to see if he has made any gains or has any information. Because right now, the worst thing I'm finding out is misinformation is just going to spew across here, and that's no good.
Which meeting are
So,
you looking to do this?
I'm looking to do it
November?
first meeting in November.
Okay.
So we have a meeting tomorrow night, which
Right.
it's past the agenda time. So if that's okay with everybody, I can't say, well, you're going to get the answers that you want, but we need to figure out a starting point, and I don't think we have that right now.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I already have going to do this meeting with him. I am going to get the answers to our actuary questions. I'll get the answers to Steve and the rest of your questions as far as where it goes and what's going to be done. I'll see if I can get exactly what steps he says we need to do in that. And then we have to figure out, I'll bring it to that meeting.
Okay.
And then you'll have to figure out what the procedure will be.
Could you actually get that to the manager prior to the meeting?
Yeah.
As soon as you have it, and could you get those questions and answers in writing? That way we're prepared for that. That way we all know what we're talking about. We're on the
Okay.
same page.
I'll do my best to get whatever
If you
you can
could.
tell me about as far as answer all the different questions, is how to proceed and so forth, not only
Okay.
just our actuary question. Then
I
you'll
just
have
think that
the
will ease a
information.
lot of people's minds.
I
And
wasn't able to make the last meeting, and as Mr. O'Connell pointed out, when I was at some time back, and things have changed, and I understand that. So I will try and get from him, I hate to use it this way, but from the horse's mouth, exactly what is and isn't, what we can and can't do, and
Okay.
what his recommendations are, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Excuse me, I think it's best to send him out and extend an invitation to him, whether it's to this meeting or to a council meeting. This way here, a lot of people can hear what he has to say, and if they have questions or concerns, they can ask him directly.
Seth Magazine, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, that would change some things. If he were to come down, I think this room is too small for that.
Well,
So that means we would have to make plans in advance.
if you're relying on one person to reach out to get a response, I'm thinking.
I'm not relying, I didn't say it was,
Right.
the
but I mean-
chairman just said his meeting with him. So
I mean, I think.
all I can do is put it on the agenda right now.
Yeah.
So, and have discussion amongst the town council. It's the only way we can do it to avoid some type of a fine or a penalty. So would be in a public meeting.
All right, and another thing I want
So-
to kind of speak to, I know that it's been discussed, you know, the timeline of when people retire versus when they get their check. Perhaps something can be made out, like a little schedule, or, you know, maybe Tracy can write out, letting them know what needs to take place.
That would be
Of 5 or 6.
from the pension board,
Yeah, 5
and
or
we would
6
get that
bullets.
same information.
Yeah, 5 or 6 bullets to say, we'll wait, you know, we have to get your numbers.
I
You
actually
need your
have
last
one
bill.
already.
So that you can
By
give to the
Robin.
people, so that they know what to
Okay.
expect. So
Uh,
they're not calling.
I had two meetings, one with the HR for the school department at Harris Avenue, and one HR for here. Each one was 2 hours long, right, or just about 2 hours. Explained to them the problems and things that were going on, situations where people were retiring, they didn't have this information, that wasn't that. Some of the things, I went through everything that we've been running into headaches that we're doing. And I told them, you need to come up with a brochure, handbook, whatever it is you want to do, you need to spell out to them what their issues are, you know, things that happen. If they're, for instance, if they happen to have a workman's comp, and they're out for 6 months workman comp, that doesn't count for their in-service time. They don't know that and find out until they go to retire. Now they're screwed 6 months, they gotta work 6 months longer. And one individual stated to us and to the council, he wasn't working 6 months more, you are giving me my first check on this day, okay? They need to be explained to them. I told them, we met, and over, and to this day, and that's been almost 2 years now, they have not come up with something. I said, you need to give this to the people when they are hired. We've had one individual that was hired with nothing in writing. What his benefits are, what his amount of money, vacation, sick time, anything. And now, many years later, the individual retires, and there's no answers. Where do we do, how does he fit in the system and all that? So I purposely had these meetings to do exactly what you said, and they haven't done it.
I mean, if one department's holding up the ball from running in, then those people should call that department. They should have access to call HR. HR's holding it up.
Doesn't
Then they
go that
can call
fast, though. It sounds
HR.
simple, but it doesn't work. Tracy and I have been banging heads on that.
So, does this work for everybody to put it on the November 1st agenda? Not to turn it into a massacre, just to get the information out and get the ball rolling. I just have one question, and I'll sit down, I promise. A constituent brought this to me in my ward, Ward 4, a question: how much does the revised plan for the pension is costing?
Oh, I don't know the exact figure, because it was going on long before I started. We're like that close to being done, but we can't get meetings to finish it. Have we got like maybe 6 hours tops, I think, to finish it? I don't know. It's been so long that we can't get enough people to have a meeting. We advertise.
Do you have any, do you have,
I don't know the amount, because it was long before me.
No, I asked you 4 months ago.
Yeah.
4 months ago, what was the cost? Tracy was there. I think you were
I'm-
here.
I don't know if she was able to give us, because I don't have all the figures. So I can't,
Yes.
that was before me.
Yes, I have sent that. Yes, I can send that. You can have it tomorrow. I absolutely have that.
You have it.
thank you.
Yes.
Because she's the one that does the bill.
I
Yeah,
have
but why
that.
don't you have it? I asked 4 months ago.
Well, we can look it up, but
You have it. You just don't have it as of today, but I have it as of today, and I can send that out.
I appreciate it.
Paul Villa, I was up here earlier, I know. A couple comments. I was at the meeting with the general treasurer, and he was pretty informative. He's someone who represented to me that he has his thumb on the pulse of all these pension systems, and we're certainly not the only ones in trouble, okay? The problem we have is I think we've been lulled into this false sense of security over the last 3 years because we're riding an 8,000 to 9,000 point increase in the Dow, okay? I'm going to tell you something. Next year is going to be a bloodbath. You already heard your investment person here saying they're expecting volatility. If we have a 9,000 point drop in the Dow, we are going to be in trouble.
More going out than coming
Big
in.
trouble. So the timing here is essential. you know, we've talked about this, we've had a few meetings, thanks to the people who have set them up with the general treasurer, but we need to get this ball rolling, because the time to get the ball rolling is not when we're all bleeding, okay? It's now, when we have some solvency, and we do get on costs, and I'm one of the worst ones for cost, okay? But they're recurring costs. That's the problem we have. If it's a one-time cost where we're gonna spend $10,000 to try and get a benefit, not only to the people in the pension fund, but to the taxpayers of West Warwick. Because I'm gonna tell you something, this is a 25-year plan. Everybody's in this idea, and we give credit to the council in the last 5 years and this year, that they fully funded their pension obligation again, okay? But the point is, going forward, if we have a drop in the market, and we don't, these pension contributions are gonna keep getting higher and higher. I sat here when the investment people were here a while back saying that we've kind of missed the target. If you figure in the 08 year, we're only about 4.5%. When they're calculating a 25-year plan, it's 7.25%. So every year we miss that target, the actuarial contribution gets higher and higher. And I want to say 2043, 47, or whatever the 25th year of the plan is, it was already like $18 million. I mean, so if it goes to 25 million, where are the taxpayers in the town going to get that kind of money? Now, the actuary study that he's requesting is because the legislation requires that any city or town that goes into the MERS system has to maintain the liability of their system at the local level. So basically, the state's really not taking that big a risk. They're going to do an actuarial report. They're going to say, and I'm not a CPA, I don't know what it's going to say, but I'm just going to say for the sake of argument, if they come up with a $60 million figure of liability, that's what the town of West Warwick is going to have to bond, and that's what they're going to have to send to the state of Rhode Island. Okay? Now, that does a few things for us, though. If you bond something like that out over 20 years, you get a static payment of a certain amount of money per year, okay? And it's not going to rise on you. It's going to be the same amount of money every year. So you can budget for it. All right? The other thing it's going to do is it's going to automatically probably raise our bond rating, because as soon as the bond rating companies figure out that West Warwick's getting out of the pension business, that liability is going away, we're a much better risk to loan money to. So we can actually operate as a town. All right, right now, we can't operate as a town because we have no money to do anything. We argue about fire trucks. We argue about buildings being in disrepair. We can't do anything. And to think these buildings are going to last for an infinity, it's not going to happen. So I think the actuarial report he asked for is to gauge that liability at the town level. He was he couldn't guarantee that he would get it refunded to us. But he said if we ended up in the MERS system, he would do his best through the legislation to get us reimbursed for whatever it costs. And it's a one-time cost. It's not a recurring cost. You know, and so all this waiting for pensions, this is all going to be done because they pay within 15 days. They have a staff that does this every single day. That's all they do. They put the numbers in every week for all the pay periods. Okay, so they know right off the bat what an employee's worth. Okay, and they can calculate these numbers way faster than we can. We don't have to wait months to get answers on stuff because you, as a volunteer board, only meet once a month. Okay, they can do this much better than we can. And I think he was pretty confident to say that there was a lot of investments that right now, when they're not open to us because we don't have the kind of money we need to be in these investments. Okay? And I think we heard that from our own investment people, which I was glad to hear last time. And quite frankly, I was glad to hear this guy tonight say that they're expecting volatility. Because in 06, we started to see this. And we saw this in 07, and then it hit the bottom. They did nothing. They did nothing. They let things crash. Okay? So at least they're looking at that. But these people, the state can manage the money for less money. Okay? They can do the job a lot better because they do it every day. Okay, so I think we need to get this ball rolling forward. I applaud the councilman for putting it on the agenda, and I think we all need to get together. This shouldn't be an adversarial relationship, and I say this all the time. Because you people are doing a thankless job on that side of the table, I appreciate it. But we all need to look at the facts here, that this needs to start moving forward. We need to start getting the ball rolling before things get bad. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Before you step down.
Yep.
I have met with Mr. Goslin a couple times, informally, just having a conversation. We talked about that liability, looked at the numbers, and the town's not gonna have the money, like you said. We're trying to figure out how to come up with an answer. There's different ways. There's no, it's not gonna happen overnight, but it is being addressed. It just doesn't go fast, it just takes time and.
And we need to work together to get there.
Yeah,
And-
but
and-
it
and-
is, I mean, at least I know I looked at the paperwork that I get in the little bit of time I have, and yet, I'd say, and we just, I said, look, this is not good. How's the town? The town don't have the money, which I kinda know, but it's just, we
Well,
gotta
you
figure
know,
out an answer.
the way I look at it is if we're taking a half a step forward every day, I'm okay with a half a step. I'm just not okay with sitting still or taking a step backwards. That's where I'm at, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Jerry Telia, just a couple of comments. Albert, when you took over the chairman, probably been over a year now, well over a year, one of your top priorities was to finish up the rewrite. And I know we're here. It's an important issue. If it's that important, demand a meeting and get this thing done, please, for us. Demand it.
It's not that easy, Jerry. I'm gonna say chief, sorry.
And-
But, yeah, I understand.
and-
My frustration is you can't come close to mine, okay? Tracy has basically held me back and told me you can't do this, you can't do that, okay? It's frustrating to come here and sit here and wait for an hour and a half and don't have enough people. To put out an email and ask for 3 dates, 4 dates, pick one, where we can get enough people just to do it.
Then
And
if
we
you
do this
can't-
over and over and we don't get an answer.
then my suggestion is-
I can't tell her or tell him, you will be here tomorrow.
All right, and I agree. But my suggestion is, if 4 of you cannot make a meeting, resign and let the town council appoint somebody who can finish this for us. And I know we don't have a figure, but we're up over $50,000 over before you were here, before you're on a board. I'm talking 5 years, a minimum. Get this thing done, please. Or have the council appoint somebody who can be here.
I've met,
I've
been to the
You
council
took an
meetings,
oath,
I've talked
you
to
wanted to be on the
council
board, I
individuals.
respect what you do. It's a tough position, you're getting bashed all the time. You say yes, you piss off half the people. You say no, you piss off half the people. It's politics, it's the same.
I've
All right,
gone to
on
the
that
council
part,
At council meetings, I talked to individual ones about the problem not getting it. We work with people that are, I'll just use one name, Russ Masachi, sitting there in the back, worked endlessly, trying to get people, talk to them, to get them on the board. Nobody wants to sit here. We're losing them one at a time. And
absolutely.
we can't get anybody in.
And for the amount of time that I've been coming, I did a study, and I kind of just did away with it. Look at how you guys, you are rotating in and out of here. Pretty soon, you won't be here, you won't be here, he won't be here. David's leaving, and he's done what he thought he could do, okay? It's a thankless job. Any of the boards, being a councilman, sometimes is a thankless job. We know that. But this is important to us. It's important that I know you keep saying you want to save money, but the water flow it's a waterfall. It's not even a trickle. It's a waterfall.
Jerry, I'm
She's
well aware of it.
benefiting, and she's telling you behind closed doors, shut your mouth. And that's good legal advice, probably. And she's getting good money for that. And you know what? If it's not her, if it was Jeff Castle would just stick the needle in our eyes because that's the way he is. And if it ain't him, it's going to be another lawyer. Now, to my second point, you guys just voted to see if a survivor of a disabled person when he dies is entitled to 2%. So that's going to be the next meeting. And if you vote no, it's gonna be into a legal battle. If you vote yes, it might be into a legal battle, because the town solicitor might say they're not entitled to that. What she has just asked you people to do, and you voted, is to interpret the MOU. And if you're gonna interpret the MOU, which I know, and I'm off base, they don't have to answer, interpret the widow's clause. D is entitled, I know what we signed, and if I die tomorrow, my wife's gonna be up the creek with her. They live close together, so they can each use a paddle. But it's unfair to the widows, and it's unfair to all of the disabled guys that signed this MOU. We know exactly what we signed. And there's an opinion of a lawyer versus another lawyer. And that's the way the world is. And I know you can't comment it, and I don't expect you to comment on it. But yes, we are frustrated. Absolutely 100%. Nobody's more frustrated than Diane Kelsey. I watch her. I try to help her if I can. Eddie's gone. She's right. If you watch the news the other night, I used to work with Eddie. I know what he did. That's all I got to say.
Any other public comment? Hearing none.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried.